Do you want to start then?
Yeah, hold up. I'm
Okay.
gonna open up the chat. There's a chat box thing on here, right?
I'm not sure. We're live now, by the way.
Hey, well, hello and welcome to the Sac Off podcast. This is episode 6, and you've now heard behind the scenes what goes on. Some of the strange stuff. Yeah, on today's show, there's a lot of sadness. Sacramento Kings past week. There was optimism, there was hope, there was excitement, and it was all crushed by a bunch of crap that happened, and sadness and depression. And so, yeah, we'll be talking about that on this cheery podcast this Tuesday afternoon. And joining me, as always, is Oscar Hazel, at Oscar Hazel on Twitter. I think that's the one. But yeah, anyway, so how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm okay. Still trying to work out what happened last night, but we'll start a week before with the bad games, I guess. Yeah. So I guess we'll start with the Atlanta game, and they didn't have Teague, they didn't have Bazemore, so I kind of felt this is a game they should have won, and they did. So like the first thing that annoyed me of this game is they had a wing guarding Schroeder, and so I think they pretty much had Rudy Gay on him the whole time, or at least to start the game. And that felt like really weird to me. It didn't work, for one. Like, Schroeder was almost a leading scorer, like 22 points. Millsap had 23. It didn't work, and then I just don't understand that if you're... So we're playing Rondo in crunch time, but he can't handle the ball in case he gets hacked, but then we're not having him defend point guards. So where is his... Like, if you're not trusting him to defend point guards, why is he even on the floor? Like, what is he offering you in crunch time other than, like, decision making? So just kind of like the whole, like, what does George Karl like think Rondo is? Maybe he just like trusts him more now. This was game Rondo didn't play as much in, like, in particular, like that. I guess the end of the game, he brought back the starters really late, and when they kind of caught up, the bench did kind of a good job in the fourth quarter catching up, but the game kind of just got lost. And this has been, I think it's happened with a ton of games now, where it's the end of the second quarter, like the last 3 minutes of the second quarter, just awful. So they went from being up to down by, I think it was like 9 points at the end of the second half, and that was in the space of 3 minutes. So that's just like kills you. Then it took them the whole of the third quarter to like get close, and then often what happens, unless you're the Charlotte Hornets, is like catching up, like a big score takes it out of you, and then you can't really catch up. I guess another thing is like the Cousins elbow, and so he got suspended for the Heat game, but he probably played the least amount of minutes he's played for a while. Like 34 is still quite a lot, but I thought maybe that someone would have like looked at that elbow at halftime and been like, okay, well, we should make the most of Cousins, because even like it's unlikely he's going to be playing a back-to-back. I mean, the Hawks were coming off a back-to-back as well, where I think they lost to Brooklyn. So yeah, it was just like disappointing game. What was your thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, one thing you mentioned with that, this is going to lead small tangent, but so cause I was late to the game watching it, and people were saying, "Oh, Boogie just threw a punch at Al Horford and missed," and then you see the video. That was close to a punch. Come on now, people. I mean, you got to know that. But back to the actual point itself. I mean, when you saw it, you kind of knew there was going to be suspension there, and
partly because of the player who did it. Is like, yeah, he's not getting the benefit of doubt.
Part of it, and just as you mentioned, I mean, I don't know if or when the coaches became aware of it, because with the minutes and how they played him, it seemed like they were saving some of his minutes for the second half of a back-to-back, not knowing he was going to be suspended. So I'm not sure if they weren't aware of what happened, and so just played
It's
it like a
maybe
normal back-to-back game.
maybe it's
But
that, or maybe it's like the bench did do pretty well to come back, so maybe it was Carl rewarding them. So maybe it was partly that, but
yeah.
you have to kind of be aware.
There needs to be someone in that building who's letting you know what happened, and you need to make the connection. Listen, this is probably going to lead to a suspension.
Because Gay didn't play much at all as well. He played under 30 minutes. And this was before, this wasn't, he picked up the injury in the Heat game. So there wasn't kind of like any injury reason. So that was kind of interesting as well, that they waited so long for him to come back. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of right. And I mean, 34 minutes is like a lot for a big man. But considering how much Carl's been playing Cousins' other games, it's down. So I just thought it was interesting. This was the game that he didn't play as much. I just kind of wonder if there's like, they have set kind of parameters of what they're going to do, and they don't move from that. And you kind of get that sense after games with some of Carl's comments that he sees he talks about things very quickly after that make you just question why he didn't act upon those thoughts that he has like 10 minutes after the game, and why they weren't present during the game. And they're just like slow to adjust. Like having a wing on Schroeder wasn't working, but they kept with it, and like it kept not working. So yeah, it's just kind of frustrating. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on this? Because to me, it looked like they didn't have much energy, and like Sacramento looked like the team on the second half of a back-to-back.
I'm starting to feel like energy's starting to become a little bit of a problem, this team.
I think with the bigs are like running hard, like Rondo's even running hard. It's just like, I guess like, because Rondo's playing so many minutes, like no one else can do it. I just thought like when they're sloppy, then they don't have much energy, and they're just making like bad decisions early in games. And although I guess they've been kind of competitive early in games, it's been kind of the second quarter they've been bad, the third quarter they've generally been good, and then the fourth quarter they've been bad.
Yeah,
that seems to be like the pattern.
Yeah, and to be fair, my feelings are coming off the fourth quarter we just saw a few days ago. Yeah.
Should we move on to the Heat game, or is there anything else from Atlanta you wanted to touch on? I just felt they missed an opportunity with Teague out.
No, I think you know that just once again, coming for a large stretch of late in the fourth quarter, Willie Cauley-Stone's not on the court.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately. I think maybe after the All-Star break he starts playing over 24 minutes, but for now it looks like it's going to be 24 to 18.
Yay, February.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the Boogie-less Heat game, which was kind of sad not to see the Hassan Whiteside Boogie match, but Whiteside, as it seems every Kings game, Whiteside gets into foul trouble early. And so he didn't really have an impact until the third quarter. But even when, I think he had like 2 blocks, and that's when the Kings went on like a 7 point run to like even up the game. And then again, it was like, it just felt they kept in that unit a bit too long, and it stopped working. Caspi played so many minutes, 38 minutes from Caspi. He was pretty good. And was this the first game Collison was back as well? I believe so.
Yeah.
Or was he back in the...
Oh, he was back for Atlanta.
Yeah, he played both. So we kind of thought whether he'd play much in the back-to-back. He didn't. He only played 20 minutes on the second half of the back-to-back, and was pretty bad. He just hasn't been hitting his shots really, which he needs to, and kind of struggled finishing around the rim a bit in transition. He's had a couple of plays he has either just, I think he's been blocked a couple of times got fouled, where normally he'll do like a little up and under. But I mean, it might just take him a while to get his legs under him. Willie Cauley-Stein wasn't great in this game. I felt like the lineups with him in, but to me, he should start. Like, I think is the best when he's starting, and Kufos off the bench. And this was a lineup where it was Rondo, Caspi, Gay. So I like going small. I would just rather go small with Willie Cauley-Stein instead of Kufos. And so I think there was just kind of out of sync, the lineups. And it's kind of hard to recover when you get in that kind of like stage when you're just kind of out of sync. But I can understand maybe wanting to play Kufos because he can bring Whiteside slightly out of the paint a bit more, but not really enough to kind of warrant it. And that would have been the interesting thing with Cousins if they had gone to this small lineup, how much Cousins could drag Whiteside out of the paint, and that changes like the game as well. Did you have any thoughts on this Heat game?
I mean, just without Boogie Cousins, I mean, it was kind of a game where you were expecting things to be. I mean, they lost the Whiteside advantage thing they were going to have. I mean, minutes-wise, still the minutes just. I mean, how much Caspi played? He played entire.
When Schottenmeier like scores 10 on you in the first quarter, and like it's just like the Kings always seem to have like one guy go off, and like Tyler Johnson had like in that third quarter, he just made like a ton of shots. I think every quarter he had at least 3 or 4 points, and it just always seems that the Kings get killed by like some like average or just like weird perimeter player will just go off on the Kings. And maybe this is kind of like the issue and why like they wanted to bring in Luc Barmute. They just don't have a wing stopper. And that I think that's kind of hurting them. And maybe that's what they need, like Ben McLemore to try and turn into. And he's more of a positive on the floor than a negative. But I mean, maybe the best lineup, like defensively, is I don't even know if you can have Gay at the 3, and that'd be a good defensive unit because threes can just fly by him at the moment. So it's just tough. I think defensively, especially as like we're trying to put wings on point guards, then you have Rondo on a wing, and it just gets like messy, and he's always trying to help and steal the ball. But yeah, I don't think it's good and like Bosch had a really great second half. He at least especially that last quarter, he pretty much sealed it. The game when it got kind of close in the third quarter. But then yeah, Bosch had a really good end to the game, and that maybe changes as well because Whiteside didn't play any of the fourth quarter, and so Bosch was at center. And teams really can't do that when you have Boogie on the floor as well. Yeah. And that would have been a nice time to see Whiteside, Willie Cauley-Stein more. He played I think he played like 3 little spells in the fourth quarter, and just because he can go out to the perimeter a bit better than Kufos. But yeah, I just don't think we're going to see Kyle trust Willie Cauley-Stein. It's going to be a recurring theme on here, I think, for a while.
Yeah. And just last minute-wise, I mean, of the final 36 minutes, Caspi played 33 of those minutes. And then you mentioned Cauley-Stein. He played for 52 seconds for about a minute and just in the fourth quarter. So that's just how things are going to be.
Rondo looked good to end that quarter. I thought that was the best he's maybe looked. He's hitting threes, and Marco Bellinelli probably had his best quarter as well until the last couple of minutes where he missed some threes he maybe forced. But other than that, like Marco's looked pretty bad, I thought, generally. But that was like one spell where you can see like, okay, he can like catch up a game quickly. But then I think once you get the game close, you need to take him out just because defensively you're not keeping it close. So it's just kind of, something to, I guess, to keep an eye out on. Should we move to the happy game then against the Magic?
We're going to include some happiness today.
So we saw, I mean, that third quarter was really fun. The end of the third quarter. That's probably like the best the Kings had played. And a lot of it came from Cousins in the post playmaking. He got like Kufos, like 8 easy points. And he was just making really good passes out of double teams. Had a steal, was like making shots. Like Cousins was just great that quarter. And like his chemistry with Kufos there, I thought was really good. So that was like exciting, and I think there's spells where that pairing can work. One of the reasons why it can work is because, like Vucevic was on the floor for a bit then, and then I think they went small and had Aaron Gordon, and who else did they have on the floor for that spell that they got killed? Jason Smith. So that kind of that's again like when they have backup bigs and undersized bigs and Aaron Gordon, then that unit can take advantage of them. But it got kind of close at the end. I had kind of issues with, I think on the last podcast we talked about DeMarcus Cousins taking smaller bigs onto the post, and he didn't really do that with Aaron Gordon, and Aaron Gordon did a really good job. Got a steal off him, like forced some bad shots by Boogie. So I thought that was, and like he was just trying to take Aaron Gordon off the dribble a lot, and to me, I think that's a situation where you need to post him up, and you're gonna get better shots that way, or like produce better offense. And just like you've got to find more minutes for Rondo. Like they were up 16 in this game at the fourth quarter. Rondo played the whole entire second half, and to me, and like Collison played a lot that game. He played like in the second half. He played like I think he played 35 minutes that game. So it's like you don't need to play Rondo 42 minutes when you're up 16. And this kind of brings us to, I think, something that's really interesting. Teams aren't fouling Rondo, who can't hit free throws. They're not fouling him in the clutch. And this was like a concern we came into the year. Will teams hack Rondo? They're not hacking him because they think they've got a better chance of catching leads with him on the floor because he's not defending people that well. They're not putting the ball in his hands because the Kings are scared that he might get hacked. So he's just standing in the perimeter and his defenders sagging off and like making the paint dense. So I don't know why he's playing. Maybe it's Collison's not playing well enough, but then Collison's playing a lot. Maybe it's just Carl, like the spell that Rondo was playing like entire games. Like Carl can't trust the team without Rondo on the floor. But I mean, they probably lost the Hornets game because Rondo was on the floor and Kemba Walker was just going ham, and the offense stagnated because the ball dies in certain places. So that was like, to me, that's a big issue. What's your kind of thoughts on Rondo being in the clutch from behind and teams not hacking him? Because I think Justin Russo, we had on on the second episode, he was like, "Why aren't teams hacking Rondo?" And my response was like, "The Kings are better when Rondo's off the floor."
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were tweeting about after the Charlotte game. It was just a great point about how, I mean, because I think it was the first early games we saw teams were hacking Rondo, but now just like whatever. I mean, he's a liability for you guys. We're just going to take advantage of that, and really, you're wasting a spot on the court because I mean, she'll be in like the 35, 38-minute mark. He's just exhausted. There might be mistakes. He's not doing it defensively. And with the Kings just committed to him, whether it's because Carl trusts him so much in that situation or whatever, it's that hurting the Kings. It's cost them the Charlotte game, and it keeps happening. And I get that Collison's kind of been cold lately, but you need something out there. You need some energy, some life from the point guard position. Because Rondo's exhausted and can't bring it.
Yeah, you're playing Collison 35 minutes. It's like, just don't play just spell Rondo for 7 minutes.
Yeah,
like that just seemed weird to me. And they're playing they're playing 2-point guards and a shooting guard, and there's none of those players are great defensively. Like McLemore's probably the best defensively, and he has mental lapses often. So he got pulled from that fourth quarter because of mental lapses, but then Rondo's not getting pulled because I guess he's making plays on the ball or there's no one else to handle the ball. But yeah, I think that's kind of an issue. It was interesting they only went 8 deep this game they went 9 deep this game, so the lineup's kind of solidified at 8 or 9, which I think is a positive. We're going to see less of, unless there's injuries, less of James Anderson, Quincy AC. We might see like spells of Seth Curry, but I don't think we're going to see much of him either. So I think this is kind of like the 9, when they're healthy, this is going to be the 9 guys we see. No Caron Butler either. So I think that's a step in the right direction, that they've kind of found the 9 guys. And I think Carl historically has always run with like a 9-man rotation. So now it's just like finding the right order. So I think they're still trying to find their foot, and there's really exciting spells. So I think it's getting close to something good. But yeah, it's just not there yet. And they just don't know how to win yet. Maybe that's it as well. Because like this game got nervous and was maybe like a warning sign for the next game. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on? I think like the Magic kind of helped lose this game as well. They didn't play Oladipo Vucevic in the fourth quarter because Scott Skiles is an egomaniac. And so they had like 2 of their best offensive players not on the court when they were chasing a lead. So I think if they had played those 2, like the Kings could have lost this game. So yeah, I think we got away with a win. We may have not have won otherwise. But my 4-0 prediction for this week doesn't look great. I think that Heat game they could have won with Boogie.
Yeah.
Obviously we couldn't know, but that game was probably closer than it should have been.
I mean, realistically, this should have been a 3-1.
Sure. Yeah. But alas, and so is there anything else you wanted to touch on with the Magic game before we move on?
I was going to talk about James Anderson, but ESPN wants to say he no longer exists, which I think is accurate. So yeah, that sums it up.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him much.
No, yeah, his ESPN page is gone, so it's all good.
But yeah, that third quarter was really fun. So like the last 2 third quarters have been like the best the Kings have played. So at least there's like spells where, and Carl has talked about, I think it was in the off season, or maybe it was when he was in Denver, about the third quarter is when you want to make a run, like the end of the third quarter. So maybe that's something to kind of track, is those end of third quarter lineups. Who's out there? That seems to be like a time when Carl wants to like push a lead or like try and push his throw down, but then you need to have a way in which you can hold that lead. And I think having Bellinelli out there might not be one of those ways, but we'll talk about that in the next game. So yeah.
Now we've approached the most pressing game of this past week.
Well, let's talk about the positives first. They were incredible in the third quarter, up 22 after being tied in the to go into the half. The first half was just frenetic pace. I think the whole game was like a frenetic pace. And yeah, that third quarter was just so fun. Like every shot was going down. Rudy Gay had a really great half. He was just hitting all his shots. Ben McLemore started the game really well. Then got in foul trouble, came out, which was a shame. Then DeMarcus had that like massive run. He also got in foul trouble. So the fact they didn't play Boogie much in the first half, and they were pretty close. Boogie also had that like back problem that I think the team's going to talk about later today, where kind of his status. But yeah, the third quarter was really impressive. And there's kind of some people saying, "Oh, the Kings look better without Rudy Gay as he missed the Magic game." That third quarter, the ball was moving around well, and like Gay was hitting shots, and the Kings looked pretty good. So I think Rudy Gay's important. It's just he needs Cousins on the floor, and not to have the mindset of I've got to win this game, and then you might not want him in the last 7 seconds because teams are just going to put him in the pick and roll and get to the basket, which Kemba Walker did. But should we talk about the collapse first?
Yeah.
Rondo played 46 minutes in this game, and they were up 22. It's like, what? And when they were up 22, Collison came in, but they didn't take Rondo out, and he just kept playing.
From 7:02 in the second quarter to the end of the game, Rondo was on the court.
It's just
that's
insane.
Bad.
Yeah. And the highest scorer was Kemba Walker, who he should be guarding.
Yeah. Open threes all day. It was fun.
Kemba Walker played a lot as well. He played 46 minutes. He pretty much played every minute Rondo was on the floor. And maybe that tells you something as well. It's like they like that matchup. And Bellinelli, he was really bad in that fourth quarter. He played the entire fourth quarter whilst they were just hemorrhaging points. He was shooting the ball well, but if you're just giving it back up, it's not that useful how well you're shooting. And he has like turnovers. Rondo has so many turnovers. He did have 20 assists, which is incredible. So he's got like a good ratio, at least. But without, the Kings could have lost by even more if Boogie wasn't in that fourth quarter. It was like Boogie and Bellinelli, the only guys that scored in the fourth quarter, I think. Gay had like 2 points, and no one else got on the score sheet. The offense just looked really bad. Was there anything in particular? I guess, should we talk about Willie Cauley-Stein?
Yeah, there's Rudy Gay missing or passing up open threes at times. There's
Marco, had an open one, dribbled, and then took a free. That was getting weird. But he took some spot up threes as well and hit them. Yeah, so that was good and bad.
That entire fourth quarter, just everything went cold, and they kept.
And the Hornets were just on fire.
Yeah.
That clutch, the 7 second or 0.7 of a second shot was good.
Yeah, that was fun. Perfect execution.
Yeah,
perfect.
So I think that's good that we're seeing some interesting stuff. But I think you want to say some maybe if you go and talk about the bad things about Carl, then I'll there's some like interesting things in the second half, and then because I don't think Carl was as bad as you might say, but then I just don't know. Anyway, you just talk about Carl.
Yeah.
I know you want to rant.
So I'm not going to say George Karl should be fired because there's so many factors about it of how many Coach Kings have had in the past, Carl's winning record and track record and all that, and just hiring a coach. You can't do all that. Carl's your best option right now that exists, and he does have a track record. But the way he's managing minutes, with Rondo, with Willie Cauley-Stein, because we've talked about Willie Cauley-Stein all season. He's proven that even if you don't want to use him for most of the fourth quarter, but in those late fourth quarter situations, including against Stroud in those final seconds, he has length and athleticism. Use him. Carl's talked about how I need to find ways to get Cauley-Stein more involved. He's obviously studying the film. And then it's just, look at the Charlotte game. After the second quarter, Cauley-Stein no longer saw the court. I get that he trusts his veterans, but you at some point, as a smart, experienced future Hall of Fame head coach, you need to find out what works for your team. And if that's a rookie over a 10-year veteran, then do it, because what's going to save your job is winning games, not sticking by your veterans.
So, to defense of Carl we see this a lot with rookies, is when they make a big mental lapse, they get benched for the game, and it's a way to grow them. It's like Willie Cauley-Stein did give up a really bad backdoor cut when he was double teaming on the post, and Spencer Hawes did a nice little pass to Zeller. Zeller had a really good game, I thought. I think most coaches would pull him for that quarter, but when you're getting trampled in the fourth, I think that's the time when you be like, okay, well, and at least that last possession when you've tied game and there's 7 seconds left, they went small, and so the lineup was Rondo, Gay, Bellinelli, Collison, and I think Kufos. No, I don't think Kufos was even in. So I can't see the fifth guy. Maybe it was Kufos. But I don't know why you have that unison for out of bounds play. I know it was Caspi was in. So it's Collison, Caspi, Rondo, Bellinelli, Rudy Gay in for the last 7 seconds of the game to protect, and all you have to do is protect the basket, and you have no rim protection. You have no one over 6'9". Caspi's probably the tallest of all those guys. And of course they just put Gay in a pick and roll and get Kemba Walker get straight to the basket. To me, that's just bad situational coaching. I kind of understand the Willie Cauley-Stein thing. I don't understand having Rondo, who was getting lit up on the court the whole time. At least Collison can stay in front of Kemba Walker. I don't understand having Marco Bellinelli in the whole fourth quarter when you're getting lit up, and not try to change that once when Batum was getting his way, Lin was hitting shots. They didn't really change. It took a while until they changed the pick and roll coverage. So they were switching everything, and Frank Kaminsky got a couple of really easy buckets, posting up Darren Collison. It's and I think Carl spoke about they should have blitzed the pick and roll earlier than they did start doing that. It's when you have a 22-point lead, that's when you should play around with stuff and try and save minutes for people. It's it's just it was just. I think the Kings are I think the Memphis loss was maybe worse than this last year. Yeah, I think the lead was slightly higher that game. And Kemba Walker going for 21 points is a rarity, but to not even change what you're doing was really questionable to me.
Yeah. And this is what's because Carl will come out after the game, or there will be an off day, and he'll talk about the changes that need to be made, and they don't happen. They turn out happening before the game. They're not happening during the game when things aren't working. It's just sticking to everything you're doing, sticking to all your plans, and not make it. As you said, situational coaching has just been utterly lacking.
And Marco Bellinelli playing 38 minutes, he was a minus 23 of the game. So, I mean, and that, like, you don't need the, like, plus minus numbers to, like, see that. It was pretty evident when he was on the floor, they were giving up points. So it's just, and I know he scored 17 points, so maybe that's, like, what you point to. But yeah, that was just, like, frustrating. And yeah, to not even, like, try and make an adjustment, I don't understand it. So we'll see kind of like how Marco Bellinelli gets used in the clutch. I think he's just always going to be in there. I guess the issue is if you have Rondo in the clutch, you need Bellinelli in the clutch to have someone that forces you to stick to him and not give him any space, because if you give him any space, he can drill open jumpers as long as he doesn't pump fake. So maybe it's a factor of when Collison looks better and can play in the clutch more, then Rondo doesn't play in the clutch more, then Bellinelli doesn't play in the clutch more. So if I try and find the on-off numbers for Bellinelli, he's the team's +8 when he's off the court, they're +4 when he's on the court, so he has a negative rating of 3. Ben McLemore has on-court rating of 7.5, off-court rating of 5. So I think, although they've been playing together at times, I think in the clutch, as many like stupid mistakes as McLemore makes at times, he's just adds more defensively than Bellinelli, and so that's like one adjustment I'd really like to see. Just see what they're. So I don't know. It's just like kind of simple things. Also, when like the pace is better when McLemore's out there. So I don't know. We'll just see. It just seems that the kind of narrative of Carl not liking rookies has really shown with the usage of McLemore and Willie Cauley-Stein. But at least like McLemore has done well to earn his job back, and he's been shooting lights out from 3 as well. He had maybe that one bad game after the Miami game shooting, so maybe he went out partying. Maybe him and Willie Cauley-Stein went partying. Maybe that's why they lost minutes. But like he was shooting over 50% from 3, so that's kind of good. He's at least like found his range. He struggled kind of finishing. I think that was in the Magic game. What made me laugh was because I've been listening to the non-Kings broadcasts, and they were saying about when they were talking about Ben McLemore, because he missed like a dunk in transition, he like rimmed it, and they were saying like, oh, that's not, he's known for like his 3-point shooting, he's not a dunker, and it's like, okay, you've never watched Ben McLemore. But that was kind of like the game he was having, where he was missing around the rim. And so I think that's, once he starts getting back to finishing around the rim a bit better, then he's going to be pretty good offensively. And it's just not biting as much defensively, not giving away stupid fouls. He got in foul trouble pretty quickly last night. But yeah, that's kind of one adjustment. I just don't see how you can have Bellinelli on the floor for a whole fourth quarter whilst you lose a 22-point lead. That just seems like the opposite. I know, like, Carl has talked about how Bellinelli's not the worst defender on the team, but I mean, he's not a good one. So I think there's just like a better lineup out there.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that stood out from you from this game?
I mean, just talking about you were talking about Ben McLemore. I do feel like I've underappreciated him this year. I mean, there's been so much talk about Rondo, Gay, Willie Cauley-Stein, and everyone else that just what Ben's been doing with the improvements he's made and how well he's shooting isn't being appreciated. You mentioned him driving to the hoop, and that's something we talked about earlier this year. Where if he can start doing that more and improving in that area more with a well-rounded and then with his three-point game, he's going to be a damn good offensive player.
He's been coming off screens really well. They're running a lot of floppy sets for him and Marco Bellinelli that they get like good shots on. They didn't really do that last year. I guess like the next step would be him as a ball handler coming off ball screens. That would be like nice to see, but I don't think we'll see it much this year. But yeah, he's been shooting well. He's like not been timid. He's been really aggressive even when he's been missing at the rim. So that's like a big positive. He's been getting like the odd steal. I'd like him to improve rebounding slightly, but I mean, he's kind of having a similar trajectory to last year where he struggled early on that first couple of weeks, then had was good for a while, then he kind of dropped off when like the whole team melted. But yeah, it's positive. I think if he can keep playing the way he has, where he's hitting open shots and being aggressive to the basket, it's like that opens up the offense, and I think he fits well with the starters, particularly with Gay and Cousins. I think he fits really well. I think maybe my favorite lineup would have Ben at the moment. I've been kind of disappointed with Marco Bellinelli personally.
You're not the only one.
But I mean, I think he'd be fine if he's in like a 20-minute role where he's like your bench gunner, and so he comes on when you rest Cousins and he just fires bombs. But he's playing loads of minutes with Cousins, and I just feel like whenever Bellinelli has the ball, he's trying to like just shoot and like forcing shots and pump faking all the time. I wish he would just stop pump faking. It must be like a European thing. It's him and Nikola Mirotic for the balls. Like every time they get the ball, they pump fake. And I just don't see why anyone would fall for it now. Is there anything else? I can't really think of. I mean, Kufos didn't play a huge amount, and that's partly because of the Hornets went kind of small. So the Kings could like downsize, which is maybe their better unit with like either Caspi or Gay as the four. So that was good to see. But I just maybe don't switch as much then. Because the switching we're getting Kaminsky. It was good to see Kaminsky having like post move, being able to post a smaller player in Collison. I think it was like 2 for 3 on those situations. So Collison did okay, like only not getting completely dominated there. But that's not exactly a good matchup. And we saw that in preseason with like Myers Leonard getting on to Collison in the post.
Yeah. I mean, just overall minutes was, I mean, I feel like we've talked about a bunch just about how Rondo's minutes should be down in the low 30s, somewhere around there. And then just Bellinelli, what he's been playing recently, you need to cut those minutes almost in half.
So I think with Rondo, it's like the odd thing is like he's playing better than I thought he would be.
Yeah.
But because he's playing so well, maybe because Darren Collison isn't playing well, he's got too large a role. If he was playing this well in a 26 minutes role and not playing in the fourth quarter, I think that would be perfect and you'd be really happy. It's just the fact he's like, I think just, like when spacing becomes like a premium in the end of games, he's really hurting the offense. And like when each shot gets like highlighted, his bad shots, or when the ball gets to him in the last 4 seconds, they're amplified to those shots. I think there was an instance where the ball was like flying around. It got to him at like 5 seconds on the clock, and he had to pass it out, and then there's like left for like Caspi to try and create. and that's not really a great situation. Whereas maybe he should have just taken a contested free. I mean, he hit that free at the buzzer to tie up the half. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's just odd because he's playing probably beyond expectation, but he's playing too much, and so yeah, it's just an odd kind of situation where it's probably like, if you're just looking at his box score stats, like a 20 assist game, you'd think he's been amazing. Like half of his triple double games, I thought were his worst games, and lost the Kings games because of some of the mistakes he made. So I think that's just something to keep watching, and hopefully Collison starts hitting his shot, because his game's really kind of based on that. He was making some nice passes though to Caspi for open threes, and so he's like driving and doing those dishes that he was really good at last year. So hopefully, if that opens up, then that opens up his like that little mid-range off the screen jumper, and then maybe Rondo's not given like the keys to the Kings for the entire game. Before we get onto the game, have we talked about what the Rondo extension should be, or if he should get one?
We have not.
Should we start it now? Because I think it's like, yeah. I think it's almost inevitable. And I think there's like some groundswell for trading Rudy Gay. If you like Rondo, you don't want to trade Rudy Gay, and like all the talks being that the players are really tight. Trading Rudy Gay is one way to end that. 'Cause he seems really close with Ben McLemore, and like taking kind of a mentoring role with him. He's obviously, like, everyone's kind of knows about his relationship with Rondo. On the court, like, him and Cousins are very honest with each other. You can see they'll draw at each other, but then they seem to get along well and like respect each other. So I think like Gay is, although some people may not like his game, I think he's kind of crucial to this team.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, I think you pretty much said it. If you want to trade Rudy Gay, then we're gonna have to trade Rondo as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think you almost have to.
Yes, just
who are you getting back for Rudy Gay as well? You need to get what you're looking to get someone.
You know who we're getting? We're going to call up Byron Scott, and he's going to be so angry with D'Angelo Russell. It's like, hey, we'll take care of all your problems.
I don't know if he wants like another guard that can't defend though. I'm not particularly a fan of D'Angelo Russell, so.
No, he'll love Rondo. Fourth quarter, a veteran he can trust. There you go.
But I think if you're trading Rudy Gay, you want like a wing that can defend.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, maybe if the team goes down the pan and you're wanting to fire George Karl, then you probably want to trade Rudy Gay. He's got and Rondo. It's like Rondo's got a $9 million expiring. Probably to the Lakers would be. Although trading him, like, it doesn't really give any value to that team to trade him, because like you're not getting bird rights or anything. Whereas Rudy Gay's on a pretty good contract, but I don't know who you're getting back for him. That would interest the Kings. So yeah, I think I still don't know how they lost this game, other than like the inability to. I guess I'm just gonna decide it was Bellinelli and Rondo playing, considering Kemba Walker lit them up. I think it's safe to say that backcourt is not very good defensively.
Here's one thing. It's like, because I know there's a bunch of other Kings people saying, you can't put this loss on George Karl. Well, no, it goes on Rondo and Marco.
The players he put in there, but
he kept them in for the entire fourth quarter. So how is George? Yeah, you have to look at the coach too for leaving those guys in there.
Yeah, and I guess it's hard because like Bellinelli scored 7 points. No one else scored points, but it's maybe the Hornets don't score as many if you don't have Marco in. He also had like a turnover, and he's had like a couple of turnovers at like bad times. So yeah, I'd like to see Caspi out there more as well, but maybe because he played so many minutes against the Magic, he just didn't have it in him. He did have a turnover in the fourth quarter, but I think he's one of the better energy guys and like better like communicators defensively. I mean, okay, so this is Rondo's fourth quarter. He had 5 assists, a block, 2 rebounds, and he missed a 2 and a 3-pointer. So I mean, if you look at that, it doesn't look bad. But then when you look at what Kemba Walker did, he missed 1 shot, he made 21 points, got 3 boards, had a block, only had 1 turnover. I don't think you can just look at Rondo's numbers in like a vacuum. Like guards have gone off against us. Look at the Heat game. It was Tyler Johnson. We need to like find someone in the backcourt that can defend a bit more, especially like when you have a lead, just to like hold on to it. But anyway, I think we've talked enough about that horrible game.
Yeah, and just so we're talking about Rondo at free agent. I mean, he'll be in a point guard class with Conley, Brandon Jennings, Grievous Vasquez, Mario Chalmers, Raymond Felton, Norris Cole, and Jared Bayless. How excited are you for those names?
Well, I guess the Kings aren't like, they don't need to get a point guard because they have Collison, who's like proven at least with the Kings he can start. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if he got like maybe 3 years, 35 million, something like that. It'll be interesting with like how, because they gave him a 9 million deal, or 9.5 million deal, whether the Kings sold that to him as like, we'll give you all the money we have now, which is probably more than you can get anywhere, but we're doing that because we believe in you, and then will you give us like a discount next year when we extend you long term, and then we can get like a better piece around you. Because I think this team is missing a wing player like a Batum who will be a free agent. I think he would be like the perfect fit because he can play from the 2 to the 4 and defend a team's best best player and offers you spacing. So he would be my ideal like free agent target. So if you could get Rondo and Batum together, I think that would make this team really fun, and you have like a good 10-man rotation because there's no one else leaving next year. So that would be it'll be interesting kind of what was said under the table, because I don't think Rondo was getting close to that amount of money anywhere else. But obviously he may want more money. So I think that would just be something that's interesting. But he'd also want to be on a team that wins. So it would just be interesting something to look at. So maybe like 3 years, 30 million. If they just say like, okay, we thought you were worth 10 million. You showed us you're worth 10 million. We'll give you that for more years. But maybe, and he's getting security into like, he'll be 30 next year. So it's not like he's in his prime anymore.
Yeah.
What would you give him?
I mean, part of me would want to see what the market would bear for him. I mean, obviously, Kings gave him a chance this year. When really no one was going to come close to 10 million. So
I don't think any other team will even go after him though, because he's had issues with other teams and he's just given freedom here. There's not many other teams that give this amount of freedom to their point guard.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see what sticks out. I mean, what happens. That would be fair. So, I mean, I could see 10 million again, but I think in the end he's just going to follow where the money goes.
I think he would probably. I think he would rather stay with the Kings than go somewhere else, just because he's found success and playing with Rudy Gay and having DeMarcus Cousins as well that can like take bigs out of the paint, so he finds it easier to get into the paint, and like there's someone creating space that he can't create. And he's talked about DeMarcus Cousins being the biggest big in the league. So I think as a point guard, you probably want to play with the biggest big in the league. He's not going to go anywhere that has a better big. So
Let me ask you this, because this is going down one as well. But at the end of the season, because I'm still not sure George Karl will be the Kings coach in 2016. So how do you think that could change Ronda's decision?
It'll be interesting 'cause I think we've seen Vlade keep hold of some people from the old regime. So maybe he would keep the staff, and like maybe Chad X gets a promotion, who's been kind of the vocal guy in training sessions at least, and on the sidelines. Although Karl does look like he's being more vocal. I know you kind of spotted that straight after that team meeting. So maybe they go with an in-house solution, and I think Vlade would like that, just because he likes to go with people he trusts, and if there's someone inside he trusts, I think he would pick that over going somewhere else. And there's been lots of reports about minority owners not liking paying for free coaches at the same time. So if you're just promoting someone, it's obviously cheaper as well, and you just give more continuity, so you don't have. Because I think that's another issue. This is still like a team that has relatively new parts. If you're looking at just the 9-man rotation, there's Rondo, Willie Cauley-Stein, Bellinelli, and Kufo. So that's almost half of that 9-man rotation is brand new. So I think we've also got to give it some time to gel and like everyone find their place. At least we're seeing like spells where they're really looking good. So it's not like the Corbin era yet.
That was fun. Good memories.
Should we move on to
the schedule?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Tomorrow's the Bucks, right?
Yep.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow at Milwaukee, they'll fly home after the game for a home game on Friday against Minnesota, and then they'll short drive to Golden State Warriors, followed by back home to face the Dallas Mavericks on Monday. So they'll have the Friday, Saturday back to back, but that's home and then at Golden State.
And Golden State are also in a back to back, so that like lessens the impact of it. I think theirs is away home back to back. So they'll probably have a slight. I can't remember where they're playing before, but they probably have further to travel, I would imagine. But we'll start with
Phoenix to Sacramento.
Phoenix. Okay, so not too bad. So the Bucks are pretty healthy in terms of like who will be playing. Like Jabari Parker's back. He's not playing huge amount of minutes. He doesn't look great yet, but he at least gives him like a bit more spacing. Carter Williams has been really bad, I thought. Can't shoot at all from anywhere, even the line. Like, yeah, he's just been. He's been fine from the free throw line, but like in the paint, he's not been very good. I think they've kind of struggled adjusting to having Greg Monroe there and kind of how that impacts them defensively. So I think this is a team where they're still kind of like learning who they are. How many wins have they got? I think there's at 6, but they're on. So they beat Detroit pretty handedly, but before that they had 3 big losses in a row to the Pacers by almost 40, to the Cavs by 15, and to the Wizards by 19. 30 was it? Oh wow. So they've had a little bit of a bump beating Detroit, but I think Detroit are kind of. I think Detroit are kind of beatable when one of Drummond, or basically when Drummond is quiet, they're beatable. So how do you feel this game's going? I guess the issue is like Giannis is just a freak, and hence the name, and he'll probably be able to blow by Rudy Gay and just hamper Rudy Gay a lot. Like we see Rudy struggle driving into the paint with his handle, and Giannis is just he's gonna get so many steals this game.
And, I mean, the one just looking, just minutes wise, I was looking at Jabari Parker. His average, I mean, he's bouncing around between 21, 30. Yeah, so and we should see him. I would guess closer to 30, given they have a day off today and then a day off Thanksgiving after the game. So yeah, we should see a full Jabari Parker. I mean,
Chris Middleton's not been shooting great, so that kind of helps. In terms of like he was like lights out last year. Bayless has been shooting pretty well. Or Middleton's been shooting like better from the 3-point, but he's not doing anything in the paint, so you can like basically stay stuck to him. Just don't help from him. But no one else is really shooting. They've had OJ Mayo back, haven't they, the last couple of games?
Yeah, just came back a few days ago.
So he's in a contract year, so he should be firing. Apparently, like all reports, where he's looking the best he's ever looked. But I thought this was a team that is like still a couple of years away, and they were getting a bit too much hype coming into the year. So I think this is a team the Kings should beat. Is there a Vegas line at all for this?
I'll look at the Vegas lines, but yeah, I mean, besides Giannis, there's nothing on this Bucks team that really scares me in terms of real reason why the Kings should lose. So I think I'd take.
Yeah, because this is a game where like Rondo can help off, or you can like maybe this is a game where you put Rudy Gay on Michael Carter-Williams just because you don't really need to defend him. But then where do you put? And then you have Rondo and Giannis, and you try to pick his pocket. Maybe that's one way, because Giannis does have a propensity to turn the ball over. So maybe that's kind of one thing, although Michael Carter-Williams does as well. So maybe that's one way they could use it. It'll be interesting. They seem to get like, they'll have one defensive plan and stick with it for a long time. So it'll be pretty evident what they're doing. But yeah, Giannis is just a beast, and I think Jabari's going to take a while to get back, and it's just don't let Chris Middleton beat you.
Yeah, and as of now, there's no Vegas line for the game.
Okay.
So that takes us to Friday's game against Minnesota Timberwolves. We get to see Cat.
Yeah, it should be fun. Match up him against Boogie. So that'll be really fun. Like how well he can like shoot and play. I think he's hit 1 free, hasn't he? So he's got like a little bit of range. He's shooting at a pretty good clip. So I think that'll be just interesting, like that battle. Ricky Rubio has been shooting awfully after that one game where he was lights out. So we're kind of seeing like a couple of games where you're getting point guards that are worse shooters than Rondo. So that's kind of helpful. Although Rubio can hit free throws, so you're not exactly hacking him, but they've got Bielitsa who you can hack. Not sure else you're going to hack, but Rondo, they haven't really shown that they like to hack Carl anyway, so I don't think we'll see that. Be interesting if they use Zach LaVine as point guard, then like the Kings should destroy that lineup. So that would be fun, because I think Darren Collison will just destroy Zach LaVine. That'll be the UCLA guard battle. And Wiggins versus Gay will be kind of interesting. So kind of similar games. Is there anything from this game that stands out to you? I guess it's just going to be like the big man battle. But whether even Boogie will be on Towns, whether it'll be Boogie on Kevin Garnett, that'll be kind of interesting as well. That'll be fun to see them drawing at each other.
Just reading a little bit of Minnesota. I mean, the LaVine Rubio played 9 minutes together on the 20th, and then 11 minutes together before that. So, I mean, they were using him at the 2 guard, but I think they've pulled away from that now. So just interesting to see how they do the rotation.
That was like what they wanted to do in the preseason, and then Rubio got hurt, I think, and then or I don't know what it's just something weird because they like benched Kevin Martin, so he's still coming off the bench, and they were starting Tayshaun Prince. I think that may have ended. They're not really playing Andre Miller much or Tyus Jones at all, and Levine just looks bad as a point guard. It's just not his game. But I mean, maybe if you're just developing players, it's useful to get your two guard to have a handle. I mean, it'll be nice if Ben McLemore had a handle, but you can't really to me. It's like if Ben McLemore is playing point guard. It's the same thing with Zach LaVine, although LaVine can't shoot in the same way as McLemore does. I guess maybe this could be a team we could go small against to start with. Like Gay on Garnett I think would work. In terms of a matchup, I don't think Gay would get abused by that, and Gay can probably score on Garnett pretty easily. So maybe this will be a game where we'll see like a small lineup start, where we've seen in spots. And obviously they beat Phoenix the other day, so that was a pretty good win. I didn't see that one. But they lost to Detroit, so that's like a team where Ilyasova is like a stretch four, so maybe that's kind of like one way to beat them. I think they've been better than I expected. And yeah, so like Orlando they lost to as well.
They needed a fourth quarter run to beat the 76ers.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were really good. I thought they were really good to start the year off. That win over Denver was really impressive. They beat Miami as well. That was Cat was great that game. That was the game when Hassan Whiteside had 10 blocks. But like Cat destroyed him. But then I think so maybe Willie Cauley-Stein on Cat's like the perfect matchup as well.
That's
his game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you play it. So maybe we'll see Willie start this one, and because we saw with Willie on against the Lakers, because he knew what's their second year player for the Lakers, and he had completely destroyed him. My mind's gone blank on.
I'm kind of. I mean, I know we talked about the big man matchup, but the two former teammates, Cauley-Stein versus Towns, going at it. That should be fun.
Yeah. Julius Randle. Willie Cauley-Stein completely destroyed Julius Randle. So there's kind of like an example of Willie destroying a teammate. So maybe he's like used to playing one-on-ones where he's not really used to scouting yet. There's reports of him never watching tape at Kentucky, but he's played lots of one-on-ones. So maybe him against Cat is like a good matchup for the Kings. So, I mean, the Golden State Warriors in the next game. The Kings, I thought they obviously the first time they played the Golden State Warriors, that was maybe the first time the Golden State Warriors looked bad. They had a pretty good, I think, defensive system to stop Seth Curry. And it was actually the game where the crazy lineup that's now scored 200 points in 46 minutes or whatever it is. That was the game which the Golden State Warriors had to use that lineup the most. It was without Boogie, and I think Boogie can kill that lineup because you have Draymond at center, so you just play Boogie at center, and as great as Draymond is, he's going to die, and you can hide. There's no one that can beat Gay. You hide Gay or you hide Rondo or Gay on Iguodala, although I think Rondo will probably play up to Curry and like the spotlight on if the Golden State Warriors are still unbeaten by then, which is pretty possible. Maybe Rondo's like steps up to that. So I think it'll be a fun game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings won it, just because they'll probably get up for it. Obviously, like a lot of the Kings owners being former Golden State Warriors owners and stuff like that, and yeah, they just don't have any. Like maybe they play Bogut more because Bogut's one of the bigs that can annoy Boogie in terms of he's just like strong. But then if you get up ahead early, then they can't really play Boga because they have to go to that lineup that kills teams. It's interesting. Some teams have even hacked Boga, and it's like that's the opposite of what you want. You don't want them to go to a small lineup. You don't want to like try and tempt them into that killer lineup. So that was pretty funny. So yeah, just don't hack Boga.
Yeah, and also even if Boga goes, I mean, I know you have to do it in certain, but like Boogie threes if Boga's on the court.
Yeah. And I mean, he's still hitting them and he's still shooting them. He's probably shooting more threes than anyone else on the Kings, which is maybe not what you want, but I mean, he's getting them open. He's taken like one contested, I think, so far. And so that's probably not the best, but I mean, he's still hitting them. I think he's probably taken a little bit of dip. Caspi's taken a little bit of dip as well, shooting-wise. I think maybe now Ben McLemore's the best shooter on the Kings.
Yeah.
So that's probably how you want it to be, probably.
3-point attempt wise, Boogie's at 4.2 per game. The next closest is Rudy Gay at 2.6.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think Rudy would be that close. So that's good that Rudy, and that was probably from the last game.
But actually, no, I missed. So Marco has 5.1.
Yeah, Marco just guns, and that would be like playing 40 minutes. He's going to take so many.
Yeah.
What's Ben at? Is he like 2.7 or something like that?
Yeah, Ben's at 2.5.
Okay. So I'd like to see Ben take some more, but I mean, I think that will come with more minutes. As someone just reported, who's a broadcaster for the Kings, Gary Garold, he's the radio broadcaster. He just said he ran into Boogie. He said his back is better. So that's good news.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really much to say on the Golden State Warriors. They're pretty incredible. They're going to destroy the Lakers today. And
Kobe's going to take 30 shots and score 24 points.
Yeah. It's a shame that the Kings don't play the Lakers for a little bit longer. They need some wins, easy wins. Move on to maybe like the surprise team for me anyway. The Mavericks. I've been really surprised how well they've been playing. Maybe partly because I didn't think Wes Matthews would be back this early. That offer he hasn't looked great, but the offer the Kings gave to him doesn't look so stupid now, even though the Mavs offered him even more. And Chandler Parsons back earlier before Dirk is playing more minutes than I think anyone would have thought, and he's just shooting lights out. I think he's shooting over 50% from the field and over 50% from the 3-point line. It's just incredible. And Darren Williams is playing really well as well, which helps. They've kind of won when Zaza Pachulia has got like an easy matchup. So obviously he doesn't really get that with the Kings. This could would this be a game where you either have Rudy Gay on? This could be a time where you go small and you have Rudy on Dirk, or would you go Willie on Dirk just to smother him? I think either of those could work.
I think I'd go small with Rudy.
And you just destroy Zaza with Boogie.
Yeah, with Rudy on Dirk.
Because they even lost a tight game to OKC. They beat Utah, Boston, who've been really good. They beat Philly, who's not really an NBA team, or the Lakers. So, they've got some easy wins in there. They did lose to the Pelicans, which is maybe a bad loss. They lost to Charlotte, Toronto, and the Clippers. So they've lost to some teams that I think are beatable. I think this is a game I think the Kings should win. They are away, but they should win. And this is the game before they go to Mexico, where they see the Celtics. So it's just at least they've got a couple of days between Mexico and like the Rockets, so they can get their partying out of the way.
Yeah, James Anderson will have his role.
Yeah. What's your shall we do our prediction for? As we
Yeah.
were so great last week with our predictions. Yours are 3-1, mine 4-0.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were close to being close.
Oh, Kings. Yeah, I'll go with. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say they're gonna go 3-1 with wins against the Bucks, the Timberwolves, and they are going to give the Golden State Warriors their first loss of the season in
Okay.
the game where they're so pumped up, and then they're gonna come crashing down on Monday against the Mavericks.
I kind of want to go 4-0 because I think they'll be the Warriors. But maybe I'll go 2-2.
Damn it!
I know. Actually, I'll go 4-0. Screw it. Because I do think they're a bad matchup for the Warriors. They did some really nice things that first game, and I think it's a game Rondo will like step up for. And I just don't think they've got. I don't see how, other than playing Bogut the whole time, how they can defend Boogie. And then if you're playing, and then if they have Bogut out there, you just have another big, so that you have Boogie on Draymond as a 4. So I just think that works really well. And it's, if you have Willie Cauley-Stein out there, it's like you can't just put the Kings bigs into a pick and roll, which they'll do to get you out of your big look, because Willie can play the pick and roll and like smother guards. And then like Boogie's not great, but he can like stand in the lane, and you just have like people help when Boogie's put in the pick and roll. So I think there's like ways, or you just like have Boogie play deeper and you don't switch it with Boogie in the pick and roll. So I think there's, or you blitz the pick and roll when Boogie's in it. You can do stuff like that. So I think there's ways in which they can match up well against the Warriors and potentially beat them. And I mean, there was times last year when it took that crazy quarter by Clay to beat the Kings, and they were close. So I think they've always been close, and it's taken something spectacular. And so maybe for back-to-back, they don't have the spectacular in them, and the Kings can sneak one. And also they'll have like beating the record for the most games to start unbeaten would have gone. So maybe they'll be sitting back a bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just the Bucks and Timberwolves, they're young teams. I think the Kings should be able to should know how to win better than them. And then the Mavs is just one where I think Mavs. I think you're kind of spot on, like thinking they're a tough game. I think obviously the Warriors is the hardest one, but I just think the Mavs are really thin. They play a lot of point guards as well, which kind of helps the Kings. So we'll probably see a lot of Collison and Rondo together. But I think they had one lineup of I think one game where a game they won. I think it may have been I can't remember who it was. Was it let me just quickly see. I think it might have been the Utah game or the Boston game where they played like 4 point guards in a 9-man rotation, or 3 point guards in a 9-man rotation. So with like JJ Barea and Felton and Devin Harris. It's like, yeah, it was against Boston. So I just think they don't have like enough guns really to beat the Kings. If the Kings play and like Boogie's healthy, I guess like his back, maybe that'll be an issue with a back-to-back against Golden State Warriors as well. But hopefully they manage his minutes a bit better and he's not playing 40 minutes.
And we're predicting 3-1 or 4-0, which of course means when we are on the podcast next Tuesday, they'll have gone 0-4, and they will be cursing and even more sad.
Okay, I'll change it. I'll go to 0-4, so I'm wrong the other way. Or 1-3. I'll go 1-3.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully this reversed. Hopefully whoever the jinx people are don't get my reverse jinx. I don't know.
Well, I mean, either way you win, because they go 3-1, or you're right. So there we go.
Okay. Is there anything else?
No, I mean, that's like, talk a lot about Rondo, Oakland Cradency, the stuff that's going on. I talked about George Karl and how he can't manage minutes, it seems like. can't make substitutions and all that. I think that's about everything.
I think we're getting close to what this team's going to look like. I think the next 8 games, if you keep seeing issues, then it's going to be worrisome. But I think if this 9-man rotation is like solidly playing the next 2-3 weeks, then I think that they'll be good. Well, they now have like 5 and 10, so they need to start having some weeks where they start catching up on teams. The West isn't running away, but they need to kind of make a move now before it gets much harder. Because we saw last year, it's like the Thunder couldn't really catch up, and now like the Pelicans are starting to heat up, and so we're at the moment 5. Let's bring up the standings. So they're even with the Rockets,
yeah,
and then there's the Clippers, Jazz, Timberwolves, Nuggets, and Trailblazers all with 6 wins. So I mean, they're only 1 game back of the 6th seed, 7th seed, 2 games back of the 7th seed. Obviously, the Kings have played, I think, a game or 2 more than most of those teams, but they're playing the Timberwolves next, so they can catch that game up. Or they're playing the Timberwolves in 2 weeks, so they can catch that game up. The Mavs as well, so they can catch them. I don't think anyone's catching the Golden State Warriors, but the Kings have lost to the Clippers when they were good, and the Spurs and to the Warriors. So 4 of those wins are pretty tough wins. I mean, 4 of those losses are pretty tough losses. A couple of really bad losses, and then the ones of Boogie can kind of throw away almost. Yeah, I don't think it's time to panic yet, but they've kind of got to win soon.
Yeah.
Maybe that Rockets game next week will be a big one.
Yeah, I'm going to think one thing we talked about is, once we get through November, we'll get a much better idea of what type of team this team is.
Yeah, I think definitely. Should we pick like a game in? So I think maybe that by the second Rocket game, so the middle of December, I think that's going to be a time when you want to be a game back of the 8th seed. So that's about 10 games time. So you're mainly playing Western Conference teams. There's the Celtics, Bucks, and the Knicks are the only Eastern Conference teams. So they kind of need to go above 500 in that run, I think, to like start making a catch up on some of the Western teams.
Yeah, for me, the goal date is, but after the Sunday, December 6th game against Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, see how they do on the road against Houston and Oklahoma City, and then we'd come back to that Tuesday, and we'll talk about just what type of team they are. That's where I would have them.
Yeah, so it's going to be so we'll have like 1 week with 3 games, so that'll be kind of interesting as well. Some big gaps, so maybe that's like the holiday rest. Yeah. But I mean, it's not been a great road trip so far. I think this Bucks game's pretty important.
Yeah.
But should we leave it at that?
Yeah, I think we talked about everything Kings related, and just it's all part of the Sac Off podcast, talking about all the sadness and disappointment and all the emotions that go around the Sacramento Kings. And this has been episode 6 with Oscar Hazel at Oscar Hazel.
A lot more sadness to come.
At J_on NFL, who talks about different sports. We can't promise you many things. We can't promise you you'll enjoy this podcast. we can't promise you we'll have great guests. But what we can promise you is that there will be sadness. And
hopefully not much.
Yeah, hopefully not much. But
all I'm hoping for is no draft pick. Unless they win the
That's
lottery and then swap
and
it
that's
with.
a strange goal to have, but it's true. If we Kings can have no draft pick this
I'd
year,
be so happy.
they have accomplished something.
Yeah.
And for us, the Sac Off podcast,
No more.
there's no better way to sign off than that. So.
And I guess if you want to be optimistic with Carl staying, it's like you don't even need a draft pick. He's not going to play anyway. So
There you go.
I think we've got 2 second rounders, so we can trade those for
Catch.
I don't know. Yeah.
There we go.
Got to pay for that roof. Right.
This has been the Sac Off podcast. The 5 people listening. Thank you.